On this installment of Creative Cabin Fever, I am meeting Tommy Cullen. Now, I'm trying out a brand new situation. We actually have my production values up here. I want to give a shout out to Kozak Demars, who sat down and taught me how to do this stuff. The man is a legend. But speaking of legends, while we're talking to a legend, Tommy Cullen, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. How are you keeping?
I'm good. I'm good. I was saying to you, it was a busy morning. I was getting dating advice from my son, so he told me that I have to wear my hair to a side and actually wear dresses more often in order to get a boyfriend.
Oh my.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not gonna comment either way.
Look, my son is 4. He's about to turn 5. Last week he came home from the park and he all of a sudden had 2 girlfriends. Now we're back down to 1 girlfriend, but they cuddle a lot and he believes that they're getting married and going to adopt children soon. So I'm expecting by the
Oh wow.
time I'm 40, I'll have about 18 grandkids.
Nice. Yeah. That's a lot of options when it comes to, people that you need, jobs done, you know, taking care of you in general when that becomes an issue. Yeah, that's good. That's a good way to he's sort of taking care of business and getting you nicely set up, I think.
Yeah, well, you see, initially, like, I was kind of like, oh, I'm probably not going to have any more children of my own, and I was getting a bit sad about it. But now that Keanu is so motivated to get married and adopt
Yeah.
children, I just feel like a huge weight has been lifted from me.
Yeah, he can have enough children for all of us, right?
Future Bob Marley vibes off that child.
Love it.
But anyway, enough about the Vicom, but amazing how he is. Yourself, so you just released Night Moves. How do you feel about releasing in lockdown? Like, how was that experience for you?
It's been okay. It's been like the whole of like my everything I've released basically has been I started like this is for my own solo project, which is like I used to have a band for years and stuff, and then that came to an end. And then I released my first solo track last end of last February. So pretty much within a couple of weeks, we were locked down. There was nothing for it but to sort of keep going with that. Like I had releases planned. I just kept releasing, like recording stuff at home, which is kind of how I've done all of all of those tracks really. And yeah, but it's been weird. It's been a new way because I always like when we release stuff and we're playing gigs, like a few years ago, that was a whole different thing. You'd have a big release, you'd play a show, there'd be all this other stuff around it. And now the other stuff around it is different stuff, like, coming on here and talking to you, which is cool. So it's all been very different. I think it's been going really well. Like I've been enjoying it. Um, but yeah, it's been a weird one.
Yeah, it's such a strange time for everyone because, like, half the musicians are like, no, we're going to sit on this and wait for a lockdown to end. And then the other half are like, no, because by the time that happens, I'll have like 15 more albums to launch. And you're just like, what's right? What's wrong?
Yeah. It's like what a problem to have as well. Imagine I got too many, I got too many albums. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I definitely had already started on that kind of path. Like I didn't have gigs booked or planned. I didn't have to cancel anything. I was really just like, I'm gonna release a few songs. I'm gonna do my best to market them properly. I'm gonna do my best to like just sort of start connecting with people, like doing social media a little more diligently than I used to, and all this kind of stuff. So then, like, that was going to be the plan for maybe a few months. And then that's just by default continued indefinitely.
Yeah, look, but at least you're doing it, and obviously it's great to see new songs coming out, and it's super exciting for me to hear all the Irish music and to be trusted to do interviews like this and get to know people better. So, one of the questions I ask a lot is, has lockdown had any effect on your creativity? Are you approaching your creativity differently to how you would have beforehand? Has there been any kind of notable change to how you create?
Um, I think it's definitely made a change, certainly when it comes to like making records and stuff, because I just didn't have other options. I'd sort of, once again, this is sort of something I'd started on, but like making full records on my own, arranging a track instead of just writing a track and bringing it to people like collaborators and kind of fleshing it out that way. So that's been like a new kind of, I've ventured a lot further into that kind of creativity, like actually just constructing and producing songs to from nothing to a finished product. And it's really cool to get that done. Like it's a real sense of achievement. I don't know, when you like get a bass line down placed in a track and you're like, this is gonna be released, you know? Um, so yeah, it's definitely been different in that way, just by working on my own, thinking about the finished piece kind of throughout. And I've even like written songs as I've like I never would have done that before as I'm recording them. I have songs that I've built from like looped guitar parts that I made into an instrumental and then wrote like music, like lyrics and vocals on top of that, which is never something I'd done before. It was always like I would sit with a guitar or sit, with an instrument and play until I had some kind of song. So it's kind of, yeah, it's been cool trying out different things in that way.
Yeah, a lot of people have been doing things slightly different, which is so interesting, and it's great to see that it has changed in the way that you kind of formatting songs, but it hasn't changed too much to the way the song itself is working for you anyway. Have you discovered anything new about yourself? Picked up any new hobbies or self discoveries during this moment in time?
Um, I've done I've been pretty bad in terms of doing like much outside of just sort of making a lot of music, getting kind of insular with that. I have not picked up many other things. There's a couple of things like one or two old hobbies that I've picked up again for like a week, and then that's it. It's gone again. I back at like around Halloween. I went like I used to uh, paint Warhammer figures and stuff. I had these like I brought a little few of them when I moved out of home 2 years ago. Um, I brought like five little Warhammer figures, and I was like, maybe I'll paint them again sometime. Never did, and then eventually I did that, and then I was like, okay, that's done now. Back to just sort of making music, um, watching TV, reading, and then again the other day, like I used to draw pictures all the time when I was a kid. Like I spent all my time just drawing pictures. Barely do it at all anymore. The other day, sat down, drew a picture. Um, don't know if I'll draw another.
Yeah, but it's nice to play around with that stuff. Like, I think it's amazing. Like, I've been doing a shit ton of arts and crafts with my kid. Like, I didn't even know you could make that much stuff, like, out of
Yeah,
cardboard boxes.
yeah. Well, one thing I did do is I built this, all this sound treatment. This is a project I did like February, just gone. So that was really cool. I'm actually in a new place now, so I've moved in with my sister and her boyfriend here, and like it's a more kind of, I guess, permanent arrangement in a sense that I was able to like build stuff. I made these panels and I've got two up on the ceiling, So that was a cool project, just like sourcing the materials, figuring that out, and then building it all. Yeah, that like nicely took up some time and kind of leveled up like everything I could do in terms of recording music on my own. Um, so yeah, that was cool.
That is really cool and so like ingenuitous of you to like actually go, okay, well I need this done, so I'm gonna learn how to do it and I'm gonna spend my time wisely and it's gonna enable me and allow me to do my craft better. So that's brilliant.
Yeah, it was really good fun. Yeah, and it kind of helped to pass a certain portion of time. That it's been weird now this year. I guess this is another thing you asked if I've learned anything new about myself. I guess I've found out something about the like my capacity to kind of be alone or like spend time not really engaging too much with others. I think I've got more of a capacity to do that than I thought I might. It hasn't been there's time like and when I say I was living out there with my girlfriend in the last place and she moved across here with us, but now she's gone to Africa for 6 months, which is half over now. And it's going okay. It's not, it's not a huge problem. Whereas I think maybe I might not have expected that. Like I'm just sort of getting by and doing what I do as ever, really, which is kind of nice. But yeah, it was good to have this project to work on and occupy myself for a little bit, like early on in that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people's dynamics have changed with regards to how they feel about their self, attachment, the need to be like constantly attached to other people, or the need to be constantly like, there's been so many kind of shifts and changes to self that kind of allow things like maybe 2 years ago, had she decided she was going to Africa for 6 months, you would have been like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, this is so crazy. But like now, there's kind of been more of an ability to just be okay by ourselves. So, as much as it makes us kind of detached, it also makes us kind of more centered and aware of self, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of just seemed like the most normal thing in the world in one way. That was just like, oh yeah, okay, you're gone to Africa now for 6 months to look after chimpanzees. That's what she's doing, like, and it's only like still, it's only some like on certain days and certain moments, it will strike me that that is happening and that's an unusual thing to be happening. I'll be like, oh yeah, she's actually got like chimpanzees like climbing on her at this very moment. That's not the norm for her or me.
No, that's an amazing story. Like, I don't want to take away too much of your interview time, but how does one go about deciding that they're leaving for Africa to be with chimpanzees? Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, well, I'll say it's something that she has wanted to do like in some form for quite a while. She studied zoology in college, and then um, like in that, like for her thesis, she'd done something where she went to Mexico to like observe spider monkeys. That was like a 6 week trip that time, right? But then after college, she's been working as a goldsmith. She's a jeweler. Like she's done that for 3 years or whatever. So it was just one thing that was always like in the back of her mind, that like this specifically and chimpanzees for whatever reason. Um, but I think it was like ultimately a 2020 kind of pandemic moment of reckoning decision. Like it was one of those. I think a lot of people had some of those and kind of realizations and being like, well, you know, it's something that she's wanted to do and wanted to now do while she definitely still can, and was, I mean, whatever the maybe there's the wanderlust of like when you are locked down and stuff and like trying to plan to the future and stuff. So I mean, she's like, yeah, I'm planning to go and leave and work in this. So she started like contacting, you know, people, and she'd talk to this sanctuary, and they were like, oh yeah, you know, we'd love for you to come over. 6 months is like the standard, you know, amount of time, the minimum basically that they wanted her for. And then it was like, oh yeah, I'll go. Like she planned it for January 2021, which I think at the time seemed like a very, you know, good bet. Like that'll be, life will be normal by then, you know. Um, which didn't, like, you know. But anyway, that was kind of set, and that was a, as it's turned out, ultimately all she's kind of missing out on is more of the same, you know, lockdowns here, and I don't know, it's worked out quite nicely, I think.
That's amazing. And I think you're right. A lot of people kind of saw 2020 and they went, okay, what are my dreams and how can I live them? Because I'm not going to get this moment back. And I think that's amazing. So that's after blowing me away. Fair play. That's an incredible story. Like,
Yeah, 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 it's cool.
so let's go back on your story. I'm always really interested on how people found their craft. So how did you find your voice? How did you decide you were going to be? What was that thing that gateway drug into the rock and roll music industry, as I like to call it?
um well, I'll say there's something that happened, I guess, when I was a teenager, when I started to really, really actually be in love with music. I grew up with music as a thing that happened. Always liked music. I always liked singing as a kid and stuff. It was never really my thing. Like I never really played instruments or like sort of, I was into performance to some extent, but like acting and stuff like that. Um, but certainly, I don't know, became a teenager, and I really started like listening to music in a new, more engaged kind of way, I guess. Um, but the people that I like really, really loved at that time, it was like, you know, Stevie Wonder, like Nina Simone, like people who are, I think, so like sort of talented, like virtuosic to an almost like superhuman level, that I would never listen to that music and be like, oh, I could do that. I would never ever think that. Um, but there is a guy, an American singer songwriter called Citizen Cope, who I heard one of his tracks in like a movie soundtrack, and I was like, this is incredible. This is like something really special, you know. There's a song called Sideways, and I went home and like looked that up, and then I started like buying. I like went and bought his albums online and stuff, and just like started getting really into his stuff. And I think that was kind of the catalyst in some way to me being like, I'd like to learn to play guitar. I'd like to write songs, because it wasn't like there. It was more of a sort of rawness of emotion and a just like real soulful songwriting. It wasn't so much like, wow, he can, you know, this person can sing these incredible runs or like do these, you know, amazing technical things. It was more just like, and I guess for a lot of people, like it could be anything. Like that's, I guess that's what like what punk was, you know, for so many people, or like Bob Dylan or whatever. Um, but yeah, I often trace it to kind of hearing that song for the first time and going, oh yeah, I should, I'd love to do that, you know? And the coolest thing is, this is the coolest, like, this is insane to me. Very recently, I've been in touch with that man about this. and I've spoken to him on the phone about this. I had a phone call with him not 2 weeks ago. This is just like one of my like truly my greatest inspirations. He's a really nice guy. It was really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, like, how does it feel to tell someone, hey, by the way, I am what I am because of you? And how is the reception of hearing, I am what I am because of you from the person that you are who you are?
um, yeah, it was kind of a weird one. I didn't. I think I sort of didn't feel too self-conscious or weird in telling him that for whatever reason. I was just like, hey, that was really, that was really important, and like, thank you for all that you do. And I don't know, he was very very gracious and very like I what happened was I sent him a message basically saying that because he's been doing like live streamed shows and all this kind of stuff, and I ended up on like a Zoom thing with him with a bunch of other people where I was able to talk to him for a second. And then I messaged him and kind of told him that little story. And he messaged me back being like, oh, thanks so much for your message. Like, if you want to have a call, you know, we'll set that up. So I'd kind of already gotten that bit out of the way in like a Instagram message first of all. So I was suppose in the actual conversation I was able to be like, so that's a given. So here, here we go. Here we go with our chat. But yeah, it was great.
That's an amazing story. One day I'm going to tell Gavin Rosdale how he changed my life. I am certain of that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I've sent 37 emails and had no success so far. But, I don't really give up very easy,
Yeah, yeah,
Gavin.
yeah, yeah. Beautiful.
That's amazing. Wow. So I like to ask about gig memories. Any gigs that you've really enjoyed or gigs that you've really had terrible memories of, because I think it's really important that we remember what live music was like so that when we get back to live music, we're like, you know, yay, this is a thing we used to do. I remember how to do this, kind of like cycling a bike, I guess.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, I guess, yeah, okay. I guess while on a almost a similar vein, with like another one of my musical heroes, um, the band Eels. Um, I so got really into Eels at some point. I think like my sister had some of the albums, and I yeah, I just started listening to them a lot. Really love them. Really like it's another. I think he's another songwriter that helped me get into new ways to approach this stuff. I guess I love how he uses humor, but is also writes these very kind of sad and touching songs. So I go like basically whenever they come to Dublin now, that's I've seen them 3 times, three tours, and the second time it was for the album. This is maybe like 2015 or something. The Cautionary Tales of Mark Oliver Everett, which is his name, Mark Everett. And on that tour, I saw them in the Olympia. Um, and the down we were down. It was seated because it was this kind of like I guess stripped back, like they were all in suits and they had an upright bass, and it was one of those kind of shows. Incredibly emotional show, one of the best I've ever seen. Like, and I sat there kind of crying, like, for probably perhaps like up to 50% of that gig, like just sort of, yep, yep. Um, but something, yeah, so something happened at the end of it. They had it all seated downstairs. There was like an aisle or like a central, down the middle, and then there was like a little wooden set of steps up to the stage. And I can't remember for sure what point this happened, but I'd imagine it was at the end of the main set before they always do like multiple encores. But yeah, I think it was at the maybe the end of the main set, and he just said, and this is like a really this is touring like a very, I guess, introspective, delicate kind of album, soul bearing kind of is that kind of show. And he said, Dublin, give me a hug. And he walked down the steps and just started hugging people. And I was like maybe 3 rows back on the aisle seat. So I'm like one of the first people that he approaches, and I stand up. And I just like stood in front of this man for a second. And my girlfriend Juliet was just, I think she like gave me a nudge. I think she just saw like I was just standing. She was just like, give him a hug. So I hugged I hugged Mark Everett. It was yeah.
Just
Um
just to freak you out a little bit more. This is currently sitting in my
Amazing.
desk because it is an incredible book, and I had to just show it to you so that you would understand we are kindred.
Fantastic. I was that's amazing. I was just saying to I was talking to my girlfriend maybe 2 days ago for some reason about that book. I was just saying how, oh, it's because she's reading some autobiography that she was saying she wasn't that interested in, and I was just saying that book is far and away the best biography that I think I've ever read. But so you get it.
I get it. A
I didn't
friend.
know how much I kind of would explain there, but I'm just like it was such a weird thing to happen too. Um, I don't know if you've been to see any of their shows or anything.
I actually don't think I've ever seen the Eels live. Unfortunately, I own all their albums, and this book was lent to me by a friend of mine because I started reading everything. I'm really dyslexic, so it's taken me a while, but I started reading all the music books I possibly could. And my friend and her husband, shout out to Aga, they're obsessed with the Eels. So they lent me Things the Grandchildren Should Know. For anyone at home who can't see this, it is the book from the Eels, and it's just mind blowing. Like the
Yeah.
saddest, most inspirational story there ever was. Um,
Yeah.
Incredible.
And that's like the thing. Why that was such a weird thing to happen on that tour. And I've read interviews since where he talks about it. And like, because if you've read that book, like you basically know what an introverted, awkward person he is and how like deeply uncomfortable it must have been for him to do that. So it was a strange moment, but I'm glad, I'm glad to have experienced it for sure.
You mentioned earlier that you've been reading a lot of books. Has there been any, like, this is off question, like we just rambled from, because this is going to be how it works now, we're just going to go with the universe on
Sure, yeah,
it. Any other good autobiographies you've read recently? I am rereading or re-listening to Mark Lanigan telling me the story of his life.
Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, let me think. I think that Mike Scott from the Waterboys. I think his book is pretty good. I quite like that one. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, that was quite a good one. Um, Biographies. Oh, I read do you know a comedian called Limmy by any chance?
Lenny, yeah.
I read his autobiography. That was an interesting one. He's an odd character. It was weird getting a little glimpse into his world. That was kind
his
of
his psyche and his world. I haven't
yeah.
read that. I'll add it onto the list. Yeah, so it's been Mark Lanigan, and then trying to understand women better, I decided, or women in the industry better anyway. I've got Kim Gordon, Girl in Band, Patti Smith, Just Kids,
Oh,
and
cool.
I'm also a massive grunge fan, so I'm reading a book all about the birth of grunge, which is really interesting.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool.
We managed to just arrive to this question. I love it. So we've talked about gig memories. recently yourself and myself had a conversation on our social media platforms about the power of self-talk and how I've come up with a code word for any time either myself or a friend of mine is really being cruel to himself. I have this friend, I adore him, like, and every time he's just being a dope, I send him an emoji of a certain word that is a secret code word to remind him that if he ever talks about himself like that, he's getting power slammed into a wall.
Fair. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you seen a film called Booksmart?
No.
There's a good moment in that movie. It's like a end of school prom, not prom, but like parties, like graduation party type of movie. Um, and it's like two teenage girls, and there's a nice scene where one of them is really getting down on herself. She's having a little bit of a freak out and a bit of a self-loathing tangent. I think her friend slaps her. I think she slaps her in the face, and she says, "Nobody talks about my best friend like that." Um. So yeah, I love it. It's yeah. I need to find out something like that. I think I need to formulate one of these code words.
Yeah, I kind of heard about it randomly and I was like, that is so clever. And like, I'm the world's worst. Like, I have so many like triggers and issues that I need to work on myself. Like, because as well, because I did stand up for a while, like, I'm automatically set on the zone of let's make fun of yourself. But then I don't realize that by making fun of myself or saying things like I'm unlovable or just random things that seem very small, they're actually really hurtful because the words we say to ourselves are probably the most important things we could possibly ever say.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. And they're so often so just unrelentingly harsh. I heard someone say recently, like, when you hear a phrase that you've heard a million times and then one time you hear it and think about it in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
I recently heard someone say that thing like, oh, we're our own worst critics. And I went, imagine if there was someone else who was a worse critic of you. Like, imagine that abuse. Imagine that, like, what, what a tyrant. I just for a second like personified that as like, oh yeah, that would be awful. Be truly, truly a horrible bullying kind of individual.
Yeah, that would be like the worst, like the absolute worst. Like, we're so tough on ourselves. Like, we expect so much from ourselves. We'd never expect any of the stuff that we do ourselves to others. We'd never talk to anybody else the way we talk to ourselves. Yet we berate ourselves with like such lunatic things. Like, it's insane. Like,
Definitely.
I often wish that I was my own cheerleader, because I cheer everyone else on. Like, I give my love out there, my energy. I just be like, "You're amazing. Remember, you're amazing." And then I was like, "Well, like when all these other people are gone, right? You're stuck with you, right? And you're pretty cool. So can you just remind yourself you're pretty cool and be that person for yourself, and then life would just be so much better."
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of yeah, it's like easier said than done, but there's no obvious reason why it's easier said than done. Doesn't make much sense.
I think we're taught from a very young age that there's no such thing as self praise, or that being proud of ourselves is wrong, or I don't know, like,
Yeah, and I guess there are cultural aspects to it, probably. I'm sure it's a fairly universal thing, but at the same time, I mean, I guess if you're Irish, there is like an aversion to like bigging yourself up or sort of, yeah, having any kind of airs, notions.
notions about yourself. You think you're deadly, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so like it's so stupid. I really, really think we all should have code words with the people we love, mostly with ourselves. Actually, every time I catch myself saying something mean about myself, I code word myself. I just think it's these little
Yeah,
changes. They make a huge impact. I think.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I will power slam anyone who talks bad about themselves into a wall.
It's a good policy. I mean, yeah, I think we can all get behind that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really getting into like pit fights anymore, so like I may as well get my aggression out somehow.
Yeah.
So one of the other questions I like to ask people is for you to recommend local artists that I should be listening to, or local bands, anyone. Now, local. There's 32 beautiful counties in Ireland, and I mean every single one of those.
Right. So there's some that you'll know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you'll know all.
Yeah.
Um, Let me think. So Vern and Jane are a fantastic band. I know you've had Emily on here. She's a good pal, fantastic musician, fantastic songwriter.
And I saw today they're back in the recording studio for album number two.
Yeah, exciting. Yes. Um, you'll know Amy Ellen, wonderful songwriter. Um, we've done a song together that's gonna come out late this year, but that'll be fun. Um, there's actually, I wonder will you know? There's a band they haven't done much in a while. I really like them. Other Creatures. Um, so they have maybe a couple of EPs, maybe an album. Um, I think it's like their second EP. I'm not totally sure what they have online or on like Spotify. I'm gonna check right now. Um, these are great. They're just like I've never known this band to do a lot in terms of like um sort of promoting themselves and getting the word out. I think I've seen them play live one time. Um, but yeah, okay. So this is all they have on Spotify. Basically, they have this EP. It's brilliant. The EP is called Coco. Really cool, like interesting kind of, I guess, alternative rock stuff. It's quite atmospheric. Quite there's a lot of kind of interesting textures to what they do. I would say, yeah, I would say check them out. Again, I don't know that they've done anything in even maybe a couple of years, but I often stick that EP on. Um, who else now? Who? Oh, I heard a really great brand new single there yesterday, I guess, by the X Collective. It's so there's a singer-songwriter called Zaffo who I I went to college with her. I knew her a bit. I went to BIM, um, but yeah. So she's put together this they call the X Collective. So it's like a group of like Irish female artists, and I think this is the first release they've put out. It's a collaborative thing. Um, and there's a few great artists on it. It was really, really cool. I can't remember what the song is called um, right now, but yeah, I would check that out as well.
Amazing.
Real banger.
I got two new like things to check out. I know exactly what I'm going to be bopping to in the sun.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yesterday, a good friend of mine, John Quinn, released a song. He goes under Coincidental. It's called
Okay, cool.
War on Turf or Turf on War. I am not very good at the names of stuff, but I would highly recommend that if you're into hip hop. And he's from Northern Ireland, so I think it's really, really interesting because he raps in his actual accent, and I
Nice.
love that.
Yes, definitely. Do you ever listen to Mango X Math Man? Um, yeah, he slash they are great, I think. They did a song with Lisa Hannigan that was really, really lovely. Slash great. I don't know if lovely's the right word. Sometimes I sometimes I bust that out and I go, but it is lovely, I think. Is it? I love it.
Yes, I think music is lovely, amazing, inspirational, heartbreaking. You know, music is everything. I never know the question, but music is always the answer.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I love that. Music is everything.
I know.
It is.
That's why I do what I do. If it wasn't for music,
Yeah. It's funny, like that is that is what it's all about. And then like you can get very bogged down in other things surrounding that at times. And I'm like, I've just spent a week like doing like spreadsheets and emails and stuff, and I didn't, you know, didn't play any music. What's that about? Can be a bit confusing, keeping all this sort of multitasking, um, the building of a career and a project or anything like this. Got to sort of keep some kind of balance.
yeah, I don't have time for many other things, but music is something I make time for. My neighbors actually text each other if they haven't heard music from the house because they assume I'm depressed and they come check. So, like,
Oh wow.
they'll send someone in. They'll be like,
Yeah, yeah.
have you heard from Rebecca this week? I haven't heard any music. Should we maybe check she's okay?
Those are good. That's a that's a good neighbor.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm living here 16 years now. Well, it'll be 16 years this Christmas, like when I got my house. And at first I thought I was wrecking their heads with the music, but there was a time there where things really didn't go very well back in August and they didn't hear music for 2 weeks. And they were knocking on my door to make sure I was okay.
Wow. Wow. And where are you in the country?
I'm in Waterford.
Oh, cool. I'm living with a Waterford man here. We've got a big Waterford GA flag in the sitting room. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful part of the country. I love it here. Like, it's gorgeous. And now that we can finally travel our 5K, it's going to be nice to be able to go back to the beach and stuff, do you know?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Beautiful. Nice. Nice. Yeah, I'm back near the sea now. I grew up like down the way I'm in Monkstown now. Um I grew up in Glenageary, so like I'm by the sea down here now again and stuff. But I was living out in Inchicore for a couple of years until the end of last year. So that's definitely one thing that I was missing in lockdowns. Couldn't get to the sea for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's tough like not being able to travel, you know. Like I got to go away to Cork a few weeks ago on work just because I had to do something that had to be done in person. There's certain things you cannot do over Zoom. All right, so
Yeah.
I had to go to Cork. Well, like we got stopped at the border and we were talking to the police, and the police woman was like, "Why are you traveling to Cork?" And I told her I had to go meet people and sign stuff, and she was like, "All right." And then she was like, "What do you do?" And I was like, "I'm a music journalist." And then we talked about the industry being on its knees for 20 minutes, and I had her subscribing to my YouTube channel. So if you're watching, lovely Gardy that was on that bus sometime, hi.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, it was a really, really wholesome day, like, because there was another woman was trying to get on the bus, Tommy, and she only had a tenner in cash, and the bus drivers are not allowed to take money anymore. And I think this
Right.
is the fifth time it's happened where I just went, I'll pay, thank you. Do you know? Because other people are just like, oh, I'll let them miss their bus. That's not my troubles. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you.
And then when I
Most
came
definitely.
back, I really wanted a Coke, but all the shops were closed, and I found a takeaway, and there was a bottle of Coke in the window, and it was smiling at me. But I went in, and their card machine wasn't working. So the €10 I got off that lady for helping her got on the bus got me some Coca Cola.
Nice. What goes around comes around,
Wholesome content.
you might say.
All about it. Is there anything you'd like to add to the interview before we stop recording, Tommy? It's been a pleasure. Anyone who's watching this interview, do check Tommy Cullen out. Go listen to all his tracks. We await impatiently for the Amy Allen and You track coming out, and all the other tracks. Like, I mean, you're working tirelessly in this sound booth that you created for yourself by yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll have another one out. I should have another track out next month. It's finished. I don't have a date set, but that'll be on the way. So yeah, if people keep an eye out, that would be cool.
Yeah, he has a really, really funny social media. Actually, that was one of the things I was going to talk about. It's really hard being a celebrity, isn't it? And having to like talk about how we feel. That post the other day just made me just like laugh so hard. Like,
Yeah, it's funny because it's true.
I know. But that's the thing, like sometimes it's really, really hard to understand. Like I still can't believe people know who I am now. It's really, really strange getting recognised in the streets as the girl who does the interviews, or people knowing my name or things about me. It's just very strange. But I'm very out there. Do you know?
Yeah, 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 for sure. Definitely. Yeah, I like doing little weird things. I don't know. I've done like fake behind the scenes stuff for my music videos where I make these like weird, you know, surreal backstories about like time travel and stuff. Those are really fun to do. I think I should do more of those. Um, yeah, and then I did a audio commentary to one of my songs because I thought it was like the worst idea I could think of. Like, imagine if you bought an album and the person was talking over the music. So I thought I'd give it a try.
I love that. Sometimes a band will send me, like their song before it gets released or whatever for like a review or just to get my opinion or whatever. And then sometimes it happens, I'll just ask Keanu, it's like, tell them how you feel about that. And I'll do a screen capture with the microphone on and Keanu reviewing the tracks.
That's amazing.
It's so cute.
Hopefully, he gives them advice on how they should style their hair and what clothes they should wear, right?
Dresses and side partings if you want a
Yeah,
boyfriend.
yeah.
We're back there again. In order for me to have a boyfriend, I would have to date or respond to any messages asking me out for coffee. So I think Keanu has his work cut out for him, really.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. But he has good intentions. My future boyfriend must like music, have a favourite superhero that is not Batman, like water gun fights, and own a dog.
Yeah, those are all good. Yeah, definitely. Does he have a favorite superhero?
It's Batman. That's why
Oh, okay. I see.
we can't have
We,
two Batmans in the house.
oh, that's good. I thought maybe he had something against Batman, but no, quite the reverse. All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. For a few weeks there, I was Catwoman. Well, months actually, I was Catwoman, and our cat was Isis, and our dog was Bat Dog. But Keanu has now decided that because I'm a tree hugger, I am now Poison Ivy.
Nice. Cool. I just saw a meme earlier today of it was like Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, and Batman in the movie versions, and it said like he was trying to cool the planet, she was trying to regrow forests, and we're supposed to root for the billionaire industrialist.
Yeah.
That's some hard hitting memeage right there.
Truth bombs.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
But listen, he's Keanu's favorite, so we, we
No,
won't
no.
we won't go there.
Yeah, I don't have the heart to tell him that there's a difference between the Marvel universe and the DC universe yet. But look, we will get to that point when the
Mm,
time is right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. At least there've been some crossovers, down the through the years, and you can always hold on to those, I guess.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
he's incredibly smart. Like, he has so much knowledge of superheroes. If you go back actually on the Viking Promotions YouTube channel, there is a whole interview where the Vi Cub tells us about Marvel.
Oh, cool. That's yeah, I'm there.
Yeah,
I'm definitely gonna check that out.
I'll send it to you later.
Yeah, do please.
Tommy, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Before I stop recording, is there anything else you want to throw out there?
Um, no, not really. Just yeah, I hope everyone's having a nice weekend. I hope everyone's having a nice whatever time of their lives that they see this video. Hope you have a great day. Thanks very much for having me on. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure was all mine.
Cheers.